Someone over here thought you said triplets.
Yeah.
Thank you, Daniel.
Beautiful. Okay. We're holding on Kufkas Vav, that's 115 at the first Mishnah. Thank Hashem that we're able to learn Torah every day. Supposed to be learning we have the Mikdash. We're learning Lili Nishma Sava Goldabas Baruch Ben Yamin, San Osef Ben Zion, and also for Shlema for Avram David Ben Sarah and Gedalia Ketzel Eliezer Ben Feget Zipira. Okay. Bracha. Kuftas Vav. By the Mishnah right over there. Okay. Mishnah starts. Almana, which is a widow, Ben Shania, Ben Shiashira, Imre Mashkinesa. Can't take a collateral from a widow, whether she is poor or wealthy. Shenema says in the pasuk, Lisachbal Beged Almana. Says you can't take a collateral, a garment from a widow. Okay. So Tana Rabbanan was taught in a brisa. The Gemara introduces Almana, widow, Ben Shania, Ben Shashir, Mashknes, Rabbi Yehuda. The opinion that we just learned in our Mishnah that you're not allowed to take a collateral, whether she's wealthy or poor, that's the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda. This is Rabbi Yehuda Rabbi Loi. He's one of the students of Rabbi Akiva. Says it doesn't matter her status. Reb Shimon says, Ashira Mashkenaisa. She's a wealthy woman, you're allowed to take a collateral. The wealthy are the ones that get the loans anyway, right? In order to get a loan today, you have to show that you have money. So anyway, she has money, she got a loan. And you're allowed to take a collateral. Aniya in Memashkenaisa. The poor one, that's the one you're not allowed to take a collateral from. Why? Because the poor person, you have to return the day clothing for them by day. You have to return the night clothing by night. So if you take a collateral, you're going to be in the house in the morning. You're going to be in the house by night. And it's going to create a bad name for this widow, that there's a man that keeps coming into the house and in the morning and at night. And we don't want to add to her misery. She's already a widow. So to add to that she's also suspected of being with strange men that are coming around, that's problematic. But who would be someone that would go under that category? That would only be someone that you would need to return the collateral in the morning and at night. But a wealthy person, you don't have to return the collateral. They don't need it. They have an extra garment.
Or is different because it doesn't matter how wealthy they are. Well, this is true here. So.
Here, the problem is that it's creating a bad name for the woman, for the widow, when you return the collateral in the morning and at night. Yeah, but just in case they set up, there's ways around this. There's ways around this, but in order that it shouldn't be set up like this, the rule is okay. Now, who made this rule? It's made by the Torah. So this added concept of because you're going to give a bad name is Reb Shimon's interpretation of what the Torah means. That's Reb Shimon interpreting that, right? The Torah says you're not allowed to take a collateral from a widow. And Reb Shimon explains this is the reason. Once Reb Shimon explains this is the reason, then he says, okay, now that we know the reason, now we know that it only applies to a poor woman, not to a wealthy woman. Yeah, this is lahavdil. But sometimes people say, oh yeah, the reason why the Torah says you're not allowed to eat pig is because it's a disease. And now that we know that we have a cure, we can do something to get rid of that. So now it shouldn't apply. That would be, if we would be able to figure that out, then that would be sort of the same sort of logic. So it's a little surprising what Reb Shimon's saying.
A lot of times, like one reason might be the filter.
That's right, exactly. So the Gemara now says, L'meimra, Do you want to say that Rabbi Yehuda Leidar's time of the Kra, Rabbi Shimon Dar's time of the Kra, that Rabbi Yehuda that says that it applies because the Torah said so? We don't look at the reason. And Rabbi Shimon says that it applies because of the reason. And therefore we do look at the reason. Do you want to say that this is a machlekes, Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Shimon? Rabbi Yehuda says we don't look at the reason. Rabbi Shimon says you do look at the reason. We have actually exactly the opposite in another case, where Rabbi Yehuda says that we do look at the reason, and Rabbi Shimon seems to say that we don't. Tanya, starting in a brisa, says v'layar b'lei nashim, says that a king should not have many wives. So we have by tradition it was up to 18 wives, right? There was learned out from the psukim, I think, but you can't increase more than that. Rabbi Yehuda says marbahu that he is allowed to increase. As long as they don't cause his heart to stray. What would they do? They would cause his heart to stray with idolatry or more spending, more credit cards. So that's Rabbi Yehuda. Look at what's going on. The pasuk says you're not allowed to. Rabbi Yehuda says that since the pasuk says that because his heart shouldn't go astray, Rabbi Yehuda says, well, if his heart isn't going to go astray, then it's allowed. That means Rabbi Yehuda is now the one that's looking at the reason that the pasuk gives, and he's saying that it's limited to the reason. Rabbi Shimon says, "Afilu achas li mesir sliba rezli yisena." Rabbi Shimon says, no. It says that you're not allowed to add. That's clear. You're not allowed to have more. And if you have one wife that she would cause the heart to stray, then you can't even marry that one. He's being more strict, not limiting it to that he's adding because of the reason. So why does it say that he can't increase wives? It says afilu kavigayil. The increase of the wives is even it would be such a wife that would be a tzaddikus like Abigail. Abigail was later became his wife, but at the beginning he asked for food. What was going on over there? And
David was getting older and was cold or something.
no,
Naval.
Yeah, Naval. What happened? He went to get food for his people, and did Naval chase them away, or something?
Yeah, Naval said no. Yeah.
And then she brought them food, and David was tempted by her. I think it's the Gemara in Megillah. I think says that her skirt lifted up or something, and David ran after her like a mile or so to have relations with her, and she said, "With me, you're not going to sin. You won't." And then, then she said, but so there was some allusion to if my husband dies.
Remember your servant. Remember your servant.
She said, remember your servant. You remember your servant. So when Naval, how did Naval die? Was he killed or was he? Or he just died?
I don't remember.
Whatever the case is, she wouldn't. She refused to. No, that's someone. She refused to sin, so she's considered over here the tzaddikus. So what we're saying over here is that once he has the limit, the amount of wives that he's allowed to have, he can't add to that even a wife like Abigail that would not allow him to go astray. Even a wife like Abigail. Okay. Well, back to our topic is that you told me when you were discussing about taking the collateral from a widow, you said that Reb Shimon follows the logic, and he'll limit the law based on the logic. And now we have Rabbi Yehuda when it comes to taking on the wives. That's Rabbi Yehuda is the one that follows the logic, and he'll limit the law based on the logic. So the Gemara says, "Lo'ilam, really, Rabbi Yehuda leidar's time of the Kra." Rabbi Yehuda does not look at the logic of the pasuk. Shani hacha, but over here, when it comes to the king taking more wives, Shani hacha the mefarish Kra, v'layar b'lei nashim v'layaser. Over here, the pasuk says the reason. So when the pasuk says the reason, then Rabbi Yehuda reads the pasuk, and the pasuk says the reason. The pasuk says the reason, then we follow the reason. My time alayar b'lei nashim. What's the reason why you shouldn't have more wives than what's allowed? Shum d'layaser. because it would cause, we don't want his heart to go astray. Reb Shimon, what does Reb Shimon say? How come there's in the pasuk regarding the taking the collateral, he follows the logic, and over here he doesn't. Shimon says michti. Bialma dashina time of the kra. Shimon says in general we do look at the reason for why the pasuk said this. What's the reason? And then once we can figure out the reason, then we can limit it to that. So lichtav rachmana, but over here lichtav rachmana layarbe v'leibinan layasser. Why does the pasuk have to add the reason? We always figure out the reason on our own. So over here, when it says you shouldn't increase wives, why not? The pasuk adds in the reason so that this heart shouldn't go astray. Why does it have to say that? My time but we always figure out the reason. We would have figured out the reason on our own. Why the pasuk have to add that in? It's layasser the kas rachman alamali. Why do we need to say that? It's coming to tell me an extra prohibition that you can't even have one wife. Of course, the king is allowed to be married. Say no, he has to pick a shidduch, a wife that's not going to cause his heart to go astray. So the pasuk is not saying only one halacha that you can't have too many wives. It's saying another halacha that you can't even have any wife that would cause his heart to go astray. So Reb Shimon is adding in because the pasuk says the reason. Yeah. If we would go through the Torah and analyze it according to Reb Shimon, we'd have a very different Judaism.
But that's exactly what Shlomo did wrong, right? He like looked at the reason. He's like, "Oh, this doesn't apply to me," and he got into huge trouble.
Yeah. So you want to say that Shlomo Melech followed Rabbi Yehuda, right?
Rabbi Shimon, like you're like,
Marbahu will virtually mysteriously, but he's allowed to increase as long as it doesn't cause him to go astray. And but his mistake was he should have followed Reb Shimon.
That's the only reason. Take something as easy as
right. Yeah, Hill is bringing up a good point that how does Reb Shimon know what's the reason? Maybe there's another reason that we didn't think of. Maybe there's more than one reason. Reb Shimon, when he reads the Torah, he says, "Okay, that must be the reason," and now he limits it to that reason. How does he know that's the only reason?
But the Gemara treats logic like as if it was a drush in many places. I mean, logic is very strong also.
Lamali svarahi, lamali kras svarahu. Why do I need a pasuk if I have logic?
Exactly. What Hillel is saying is right, but it could apply to a drush also. It could apply to every interpretation.
Would Reb Shimon say that there's a tradition to what the reason is? Is there a Torah Shabbal Peh reason, or is it just coming from logic? If it's just coming from logic, then that's a very dangerous. Say, well, the reason why we keep Shabbos is because we're supposed to have, the people work so hard, slavery, but today that we don't work so hard, we just have an office job, so maybe whatever.
I mean, this is very interesting. What's really talking about is the basis for the Rabbanim making oral law. This is really about the schism between the Tzedukim and the Perushim, and today the schism between Orthodox and, say, Reform.
Right.
How do you interpret it? Interesting.
Right. Right. It must be based on what Hill is saying. It must be that there's a tradition to what logic was, not just that we can make up the logic. Yeah. Remember that that thing from the Gra. The Gra said that Kumar says he should eat garlic on Friday night.
Right.
It increases the sperm. So the Gra said that even if you're not married, you should eat garlic. Question is what does someone not married need to release the sperm? So he said you don't know all the reasons that the sages gave. They gave one reason. They hide most of the reasons, and they reveal only a small reason to what they meant. So yeah. Anyway, that's by the
You
sages.
see that a lot in, on Shabbos, right? Don't ride a horse because you might come and pick a branch from a tree. Like a lot of things that are kind of, but that's not that's just one reason why you don't ride a horse on Shabbos.
Right, but we would limit that actually. I mean, the riding of the horse and the making of a raft, because we live in cities and this, so we don't really, or fixing an instrument or something, making a music line, because of our lifestyle. So we don't have that. But if we go out, if we go out camping or something, then that would come back very quickly. It's only because it's the difference between the city people and the village people. So we could say, well, it doesn't matter. Just because you live in the city, the laws don't change. But, okay.
Interesting.
If someone chayvel means to take a collateral, usually it would be bavakama. A chayvel would mean someone that would cause damage, but here it means to take a collateral. A chayvel aserichayim, someone that takes a mill as a collateral. He violates the negative prohibition, and he's chayiv because he took two utensils, which he wasn't allowed to. It says rechayim v'rechev, right? It says the lower mill and the upper mill. I don't remember which one is which. It says shenemar leyachbol rechayim v'rechev, not to take the millstones. Lyoina is the rechev. Rechayim is the lower one.
I'm not sure why. I didn't know if this is a portable before.
It has to be a portable mill, or else how do you take it?
No, because before the person was standing outside the house, and we understood that it was in the house.
No, but it is in the house. It is in the house. The question on this is how's he getting it? It's not allowed to go in the house. That's a discussion. So the way to resolve this is that either he violated that rule, or it's the shliach bezdin that went inside and is taking it. It's something that he wasn't supposed to take. Now, let's assume that these are utensils that are in the house. Now, it has to be portable, of course, because else how do you move it, right? So, and it's not only the mill that's prohibited to take as a collateral, but anything that's used for eichel nefesh, anything that's used for food preparation is prohibited to be taken as a collateral because you're taking his soul. Now, there's a discussion over here when it says eichel nefesh, the commentaries discuss if it means specifically food items. Let's say it would be his computer that doesn't prepare food. You would like it to, it doesn't. Or do we say eichel nefesh means anything that he uses to create income that gives him food? So then it would include the computer. So there's two different ways of reading this. Okay, whatever the case is, we'll leave that to the commentaries. Now, Amar Rav Huna says, if he takes the millstone, the lower millstone, like Yishtayim, he violates two prohibitions. What are the two prohibitions? First of all, he took the stone, he wasn't allowed to take it. Second of all, Mishum ki nefesh chayvel, because he took something that was used for food preparation, he took the person's soul. Rechayim v'rechev, let's say he takes both stones, the lower stone and the upper stone, like a shalish. Now he violates three prohibitions. The two stones, Mishum rechayim v'rechev, the lower stone, the upper stone, Mishum ki nefesh chayvel, also violates this general prohibition not to take anything that's used for food preparation.
He takes the lower stone. It's taking the upper stone because one stone.
What do you do with that? Right.
But the prohibition also is because he's going into private domain.
We're not mentioning here that he's going into his house. That's the commentators discuss that, but like how is he getting it? We were talking about just there are certain items that you're not supposed to take as a collateral, and he ends up taking it. So this opinion holds. Rav Huna was a second generation Amira, student of Rav. His opinion is that when you have a general prohibition, you tack that on to the individual prohibition. So you have the individual prohibition, don't take this stone. You have another prohibition, don't take that stone. Then you have a general prohibition of don't take any of the stone, don't take anything that's it. So now we have three. So you tag that on. Now Rav Yehuda says no. Rav Yehuda says, Kaval Rechaim, if you take the lower stone like Achas, you only get one prohibition. Rechev, if you take the upper stone like Achas. Rechev Rechaim, you take both, and like your time, then you get two. What about that third prohibition that was like a general prohibition for anything that's food preparation? We turn the page on top of 115b. It says L'shar Dvarim Hu also, that's coming to tell me other things. It's not coming to add a prohibition onto the millstones. It's coming to tell me that other things. You can't take a can opener or whatever, a mixer, or whatever, all those other nice instruments that we have in the kitchen. You can't take those. Okay, so we have over here a machlekes between Rav Huna and Rav Yehuda, two second generation Amiraim. Both of them are students of Rav. And Rav Yehuda is also from Shmuel. Okay. Let's say that Abai and Rava, who are later Amiraim, fourth or fifth generation Amiraim, they have the same argument that Rav Huna and Rav Yehuda had several generations earlier. Rava, because Rava says, now we jump topics to the Korban Pesach. Korban Pesach has to be eaten roasted. So regarding that, it says achal na, if you eat it raw, like ishtayim, you get two malchus. Malchus twice. It doesn't taste good. It depends what they would do. There was like raw meat that they would eat, I don't know exactly. Like parsha, whatever. Yeah. So, but you get, if the Korban Pesach needs to be roasted, if you don't do that, then like your time get malchus twice. What are the twice? Mishum na. First of all, it says don't eat it. No, don't eat it raw. Mishum kiyam tzliesh. It also says that it's supposed to be roasted. Rather roasted. Muvashal, if you cook it, then like your shtayim, then you get also malchus twice. Mishum muvashal, because it's cooked. And it says you're not allowed to cook it.
So roasting and cooking.
Yeah. Cooking means with water, and roasted means just over a flame. It's supposed to be roasted over a flame. They would put it on a pomegranate stick, and because a pomegranate can have some straight sticks, and they would put the stick straight through the whole animal. They would roast it on it. What is that? They roast the whole animal. So this they would dig a hole in the ground, put the fire there, and then put it on.
And turn it by hand.
They turn it by hand, yeah. And put a fire in the ground. For the hole. Yeah. So Mishum Mavashal. Umishum Kim Tzliesh, also because it says it wasn't roasted. That's a prohibition as well. No Umavashal, if it was raw and cooked. I don't know how you do that. I guess it means part of it was raw and part of it was cooked. Yeah. So then Laikish Alaish, then you get Malchus 3 times. Mishum na, first of all, it was raw. Mishum mavashal, because it was cooked, and it was supposed to be roasted. Mishum leisechlano came tzliesh, also because it says it was supposed to be roasted. You didn't do that, so that's another prohibition. That's the opinion of Rava. That's tacking on a third prohibition onto each of the individual prohibitions, which follows the view of Rav Huna, which did the same when it came to taking the millstones. Also, he attached another prohibition, a general prohibition onto them. However, Abaya says, "Ain't like an alav shabachlalas." You don't get malchus for the leisechleno kiyam tzliesh when it says you should only eat it roasted, because that is a general prohibition, and general prohibitions don't incur lashes. Yeah. There's different types apparently. There's different types of lav shabachlalas. But Over here, we already itemized how it's supposed to be, how it's not allowed to be done. So now the general prohibition doesn't now add on another prohibition to the ones that were already itemized. So the Gemara suggests that Lema Abaya Damakar of Yehuda. Let's say Abaya follows the view of Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda says when you took the millstones, it was the second generation of Meira, take the millstones, you only get Malchus twice, not 3 times. Why? Because the third one was a general prohibition that doesn't get attached. And Rava, Rava that says that you do add on that general prohibition, he's following the view of Rav Huna that said that by the millstones you do get Malchus 3 times. Well, no one wants to do this. Everyone wants to follow both opinions of the earlier stages. So Amalach Rava would say, even though I sound like I'm saying like Rav Huna, but Anadam I feel like Rav Yehuda. Excuse me. But I could follow Rabbi Yehuda as well. Now, excuse me, Rabbi Yehuda was the one that said that you don't get the extra Malchus. Now, Rav over here says that you do get the extra Malchus. So we're referring to the Lavsha B'chlolos. Thank you. The general prohibition. Okay. So how is Rav going to explain that he could go with Rabbi Yehuda? This is that like Rabbi Yehuda. Over there, Rav Yehuda said that you don't get Malchus. Okay. That you don't get the extra Malchus because it says Nefshu Chayvel, he's taking his life when he takes the vessel that's used for food. He says, that doesn't sound like the millstone. He says it's not necessary to have an extra prohibition on the millstones. Rather, hilkach l'shadvar mudasa. When it says that you're not supposed to take a collateral from something that's used for food, it's coming to tell me other things. But here, by our pasuk, by the Korban Pesach, kiyam sliesh l'mayasa. What would sliesh be coming to tell me? It must be coming to tell me a general prohibition. So even Rava that says that kiyam sliesh is coming to tell me a general prohibition that you get an extra set of lashes. Now it can't be including anything else because what else is there between it's either raw or cooked? There's nothing else. So kiyam sliesh, it must be only adding in another prohibition to get an extra set of lashes. But on the other hand, when it came to the collateral, it only said a millstone, a lower one and an upper one. It didn't tell me every possible. It didn't say talk about can openers and mixers and corkscrews and whatever else. So over there, it could be adding other items that you get that you can't take.
Wouldn't there also be a general?
No, it's I wouldn't say there's a general. I don't say there's a general if it's including other items. That's what Rav is telling me. Over here, it's a general prohibition because there is no other items. It's either raw, cooked, or roasted, or both. But there's nothing else. So when it says it has to be roasted, it has to be roasted. Don't eat it unless it's roasted. So what's it coming to tell me? Some other type of cooking? Okay. There are other types of cooking, but we put them under those categories: steaming and frying, but it goes under the categories of either with a lot of oil, it's considered roasted, it's considered cooked, and with the little bit of oil, it's considered roasted. And they go under the other category. Abaya would say, "Anadam Rafil Rav Huna," that I can even follow Rav Huna. Rav Huna said that there is a general prohibition that gets attached. And Abaya actually, when it comes to the Korban Pesach, he doesn't hold of the general prohibition. So how could he follow Rav Huna? Adkan like Rav Huna only said it over there. That nefshu chayvel, that's an extra pasuk. Even the yiseru shadir rechaim berechev. He says over there, it's actually an extra pasuk. It's not necessary. So therefore, it must be coming to tell me a third prohibition for the millstones. Abal hacha, but when it comes here to the carbon pesach, kiyam tzliyesh, this pasuk that says that it has to be roasted is actually coming to teach me another halacha. Lab yiseru, it's not an extra pasuk. Let me buy a because we need it for something that was taught in a brisa. Brisa says b'shash yeshnem b'kumachal tzli, yeshnem bal teichel na, b'shash yenem b'kumachal tzli, yenem b'al teichel na. Interesting halacha. The carbon pesach was slaughtered on the 14th of Nisan in the afternoon. And it was eaten on the 15th of Nisan at night. It was the first night, the 15th. So you had to wait a little bit through nightfall to be able to start eating it. Let's say someone ate it earlier, before the time of eating it. It says, well, when it comes to the night time when you're supposed to eat it roasted, then you're not allowed to eat it cooked or raw. But if you eat it before the time, which you weren't supposed to do, but if you eat it before the time, then you didn't violate the prohibitions of not eating it raw. It's only at the time when it's supposed to be roasted, you have the prohibitions of not to eat it raw. But if you want to eat it earlier, there's no such thing as eating it later, because that's another prohibition. Not you can't. It's nicer, left over. So, but whatever the case is, if you would eat it before, then you don't violate that prohibition. And that we're getting from the pasuk of kiyam tzliyesh, only when it's roasted. The pasuk of only when it's roasted is telling me that that's when the other prohibitions apply at the time when it's roasted. Okay. Basically, what we just did over here is we have a machlekes Abaye and Rava about if we take a general prohibition and attach it to the individual prohibitions. We also have a machlekes Rav Huna and Rav Yehuda. If you take a general prohibition and attach it to the individual prohibitions, and it turns out that each one could actually agree with the other two. They're not lined up. That Abaye needs to follow Rav Yehuda. Rava needs to follow Rav Huna. It's not actually how it's lined up. They could each follow both of them. Tanya Kavasei Rav Yehuda. We have a support for Rav Yehuda, back to Rav Yehuda, that says that you don't attach the general prohibition onto the millstones. Says Chabal Zug Shel Saparim. If he took a scissors as a collateral, a barber's scissors, and which is two pieces. That's why in Hebrew it's called the Zug, which means a pair. Pass me a pair of scissors. It's really only one scissors, but because you can still get scissors today that they come out. Huh? They come out, you turn it all the way in it. So it's Semed Shel Paris. And sorry, I couldn't turn it up. And the cows of a pair of cows, of oxen, cows probably. Chayv Stayim. You took because this was a prohibition. You wasn't supposed to take. These are things that are used for work or for. You see, interesting. If it's Zug Shel Saparim, I think Tosfos discussed this. That if it would be if it needs to be for the kitchen itself, then we're talking about it's a barber scissors that's used in the kitchen. We'd have to adjust this a little bit. But if it's talking about anything that could be used to make income, which is used for food, so then it could be more inclusive over here. So if he takes just one cow or one piece of the scissors, he's only chayiv once. Tanya Yidach, I have another brisa. The main point of these brises is to show me that I'm not tacking on this general prohibition onto individual prohibitions. I have another brisa says Chaval Zug Shel Saparim v'Tzemed Shel Paris Yachal LaYechayiv Alachas. Maybe you should only be chayiv one. Tamalaim LaYachbor Echayiv V'Rechev. Mari Chayiv V'Rechev V'Shem Yechadim Shnei Kelim. Just like when it comes to the mill, I have two millstones that do one job, but they're two utensils. They do one job. For each one individually. Also, anything that's two utensils, but they do one job. You chayav on each one individually. Okay, this would follow the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda. Says I don't have a third prohibition attached to it. Okay.
So does all this mean that when the basin comes to take collateral on a loan that hasn't been paid, that they can only take one thing?
They can only take things that are not used for work.
Right?
They can't take things that they have to that the person needs during the day. Yeah. So what's the benefit of taking it if he always gives it back? Like we said, there were two benefits. One is Shemitah, the other one is that if the person passes away, it's considered that it's collected. You can collect from the orphans.
But this seems to be saying that even if you have something, two kalim that are no value, each by itself,
Right.
you can't take them. Is that to say that basin can only take a thing?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I'm not sure. It looks like it's only because these are things that are used for Eichel Nefesh that that's why they can't take it. But otherwise, they would take whatever there is.
Okay, okay, thank you.
That's what it appears. So who Gavra? There was a person. The Chaval Sakina the Ashkafta Mechavre, that he took a butcher's knife from his friend as a collateral for a loan that he had. So he took a butcher's knife. Also, Lakamida Abaya comes in front of Abaya. Amalei Zila Hadre. You got to give the knife back. The Havale Keli Shaisim Bayachal Nefesh, because that's a utensil that's used for food. And you can't take utensils that are used for food. The Sa Kum Bedina Allah. After you return it, then we'll go and we'll see how to collect the money that's owed to you. But first return it, and then we'll investigate and see what you can collect. Rava says, the Rava says you don't need to go to court over this, because once you already have the collateral, then you have already the value of the loan, and you're good to go. And you can claim whatever the value is of the collateral, you can already take that, because you have it already in your hand. Abaya, the Gemara says, Leslie Haisvara. Abaya doesn't hold of this. Once you have a collateral, that you can just take the collateral, and the person's not paying, you could use that as payment. What's the difference? There was a case in Nardoi. There were these goats that ate. Chushla is a type of barley where it's pearled barley. The owner of the barley came. He took the goats, and he was claiming that I'm keeping them because of the damage that the goats did. And Shmuel's father, who was then a dayan, I guess in our day, he paskin that you are allowed to use this collateral as repayment of the loan. So what is Abaya doing now, saying that you have to return the butcher knife, and then we'll work on the case separately. So it's Hasam Lav Midi da Avda L'Ushle La Gurihu. Over there, the goats are not something that are lent out, and so therefore Hachamidi David L'Ushle La Gurihu. But this is something that is lent out. Now, what's the difference if it's something that's normal to be lent or something that's not normal to be lent? Gemara now says the Shalach Ravuna Barav and Dvar Masim Lahashal Lahaskev Amal Kuchnem Biyadi Eine Neman. Usually, if you have something in your hands, it's assumed that it's yours, right? Whatever you're holding onto, your shirt, or whatever, your phone, you're holding this, assume that it's yours. But if you're holding a pencil, so then it's not assumed that it's mine, because pencils get passed around. You can't say, no, it's mine. Why? 1 second. It could be that someone just handed it to you, because everyone's always sharing pencils. So if it's something that's asiyun lahashal haska, then you can't claim that it's mine. So what's happening over here is that when someone has a mashkan, a collateral, he could really claim that it's his. Your pencil is a number two.
Oh, that's H.
So he could really have claimed that it is. Then he's not claiming, he's claiming that it's repayment of the loan, but because he could have claimed that it's his, so then we let him take it as repayment of the loan. But if it's something that he doesn't have that claim, that he can claim, that he can't claim that it's his anyway, so then we don't let him use it as repayment of the loan. So that's going to resolve this difference between the goats, which are not lent out, and therefore he could claim that it's his. And the Abaye is saying that the knife, which is lent out, which he can't claim that it's his. It says, "V'Rabba Leslie Haisvara." What does Rabba do? Rabba says that he can claim that the knife. Well, he doesn't say that. Rabba just says that he doesn't have to go to court over that. He just takes the knife as his payment. It says, "V'Rabba apik zuga desarbala v'safa dagata miyasmi b'dvar masim laska." Rabba even would take a zuga de sarbala. This is a scissors that's used to cut wool. And Sifra Da'agadata is a book that's a storybook. Maybe it's Talmudic stories, maybe. He confiscated that as a collateral to repay a loan. Now, those are things that are lent out. So if Rava would do it with things that were lent out, for sure you should do it with things that aren't lent out. And the knife is something that's up until here we're thinking that it's something that it's lent out. So how could Rava now? 1 second. How could Rava say that the knife could be used as payment?
I don't think that's an appropriate cover because once he lent out, he obviously wouldn't mind if someone took it. But things that he wouldn't lend out, he would mind. Therefore, it's
Let me see what it says.
stricter.
Rav himself seized a pair of cloakmaker's scissors in a book of Agada. It's 23. Homiletic Discourses of the Sages. Such books were lent out, but they were not heavily used. Other books, however, were not commonly lent out, lest they become ruined through constant use. Okay, so these books are, yes, lent out. And he took it from orphans and awarded them to the last known owner without proof that he still owned them. Since these are items that are likely to be lent out or rented to others, evidently regarding such items, Rava held that physical possession is not a proof of ownership. Why then did Rava rule that one who seized the knife, which apparently is also an object that is likely to be lent out or rented, may collect up to its value on the basis that he would have believed that he had claimed it as his own? So Rava is
mentions there that items that were usually lent out, the person could lie. Like if they wanted, he could lie and they said they bought it, that it wasn't like lent.
right.
In the case of the books.
Right. That's part of the claim over here. I could say that it's his. But over here, I guess the orphans, he's taking it for the orphans. He's taking it from the orphans. And he's giving it to the last owner. It's not letting the orphans collect with it. So the question is like this. Rava, he allowed them to collect from the knife that was taken as a collateral. But he didn't let orphans collect from the Sifra Da'agadata and the scissors. So why doesn't Rava let him collect from the Sifra Da'agadata and the scissors? He let him collect from the knife. So the Gemara answers this question. The Gemara says, Amalach Rava would respond, Hai Nami, Kivan Dimifgama, Kapti in Shivalei Mushli. Put the two words together over there. Me, Pagama. It's Dimifgama. Since the knife could get a nick and a blemish, we're talking about a shchita knife over here. We said it was a butcher knife before, but that's probably the sheikhet. since it could get a blemish, the people don't lend the knife out. So if it's something that's not lent out, so then that's why you could actually claim that it's you could have claimed that it's his, and therefore we let him take it as repayment of the loan, as the collateral. Okay, we're holding up the new chapter by Australia, which means that 1, 2, it will be done. Today's Monday. This is Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, maybe Thursday night. Do you want to do a CM or do you want to hold it for the 9 days? Okay.
I mean, there's always plenty of people.
Oh, okay. Okay, so maybe we'll make the CM Thursday night. We'll be in touch. Okay. Have a good day, everyone.